Well, in my lifetime, I've seen horse manure on the ground and I've seen a man in the moon. And I think I've seen the best that this world's got to offer. That's a vast spectrum of change.
New technology is a pretty frightening thing because I don't think many journalists can say what sort of effects it's going to have on us.
News reporting will become much more formalised, I think. And in some ways, new technologies will dictate that because of the faster, more compact flow of information.
My responsibility is the total company, its long-term direction, its survival. But of course, the major part of the company is the Age newspaper. It's the flagship, it's the profit earner, and so many parts of the organisation feed off the Age.
Good morning, Age Classified.
As a businessman, I must look at advertising revenue, I must look at circulation, I must look at the competitive position. All that has to be my responsibility, because after all, I'm responsible for profits and I'm responsible to the board for the progress of the company.
About 10 centimetres deep by 2 columns across.
Go ahead, thanks.
That's the Bluebird sail.
Technological changes for the Age are simply to bring in computerized typesetting, which it already handles classified, is moving towards handling the editorial side. We have, 150 terminals that collect our classified. We have Zenetrons, which are display terminals, which are needed for the limited display type. They set out on the screen the way the advertisement will look.
Well, it is necessary to switch to this new technology, which we call the cold metal, because the old liner types are wearing out, they're not being replaced, they're not being made anymore. The new technology is, in some instances, very much quicker. It's labour saving, which I suppose the employers find that it will affect profits at the end of the year. And like every trade, technology is creeping into it. Jobs will be lost with the new technology. More's the pity. The machines are a lot faster. They do 3 or 4 times the amount of work that a normal liner type machine would do.
Face up itself, I don't enjoy it all very much. I've been on the keyboard for the last 20 years and sort of face up, you know, it's sort of very mundane sort of job, you know. I think the move is a backward step because you don't use all your expertise that you learned previously over the last 20 years, and when you go onto the Zenitron, you only use part of it. It's mainly all mental that you use, and very quiet. You don't know what you do, what happens to it. You know, it goes up in the computer, and if it breaks down, you're lost.
Well, some of the young people that have been selected for training they've found that they couldn't cope with the new technology. They've gone back to their overseer and said, look, I just couldn't cope. Can I come off it and be given another job, which they have done. I myself, I don't think I could cope at sitting down at a video screen hour after hour, day after day, year after year, just watching that screen. It would be looking like looking at a television set about 18 inches away from your face.
The importance of changing to new technology, there are 3 or 4. Economics, basically. You couldn't set a newspaper in hot metal now and be a viable proposition.
Yes, I do. That goes there. That goes there.
Yeah, I've got there. I'm just trying to organise the cut close.
Secondly, it's quicker. As I said, we can take ads a lot later than setting hots, so we're getting more ads, which makes more profit, hopefully, for the age.
If the history of other countries, the recent history of other countries is any guide, new technology will create more publishing opportunities, the chances of producing more newspapers, smaller, more specialised newspapers, more magazines, that prospect is there. I think in the long term, the technology will provide more jobs for journalists than the old hot metal traditional type of newspaper has. I don't think that's the fear. The fear is that for people of my generation who learnt to write with copy paper slipped into a typewriter, to move to a terminal is to change your whole writing style. The difficulty I found was to be able to sit down on a terminal and write a feature article.
At the moment, the new technology is very much of a mystery to many of us. Some of us are frightened, some of us are excited by it. Most of us are in that sort of middle ground. We're going to accept it and we'll take it as it comes. I think there are health concerns, concerns about eye strain, about changing work patterns and this kind of thing. This will largely depend on how the management installs that new technology. I think the prospect of typing directly into a video display terminal will be quite a change of habit. It'll be smoother. I've got fears not so much in the mechanics of typing, but fears about how I'll be organising my stories. It'll be a new experience not to be dealing with paper. I think the big change there is that you're not dealing with paper. You're typing straight onto a disk, onto a screen, and then that gets transferred directly down to the printers. The luxury of working with paper is gone, as I said before. I mean, you write a paragraph you don't like, you just grab it out and you throw it away. You can't do that with a video disc. It's more impersonal, I think. The typewriter's become, over the years, very much an extension of you. You relate very closely to it. You have your own personal typewriters that you like and others that you don't like.
All technological change is troubling. People have expectations that their lives are going to be dramatically changed by changing technology. And I think there's a certain apprehension among a lot of reporters in Australia that the new technology is going to turn them into something other than good old-fashioned reporters, as it were. We don't know whether this is true from experience yet.
That's an excellent story.
Yeah. What do you think? Perhaps an interview or with the proprietor? Or?
Well, who have you spoken to down there?
The pressure on instant breaking news has dropped. We're no longer expected to go out and cover fires, burglaries to the same degree as we had to, because those sort of events can be covered faster and better by radio and television. Our role is going to be much more backgrounding, explaining, analysing, and writing the human perspective on those sorts of news stories.
Well, it's like a giant milk bar, this place, I think. It's open most of the time, and lots of people treat it as a second home.
The reporter's room with the VDTs will be something quite strange. The old days of the typewriters and the cups of coffee being spilled over papers and the cigarettes and the sitting on desks and that whole scene, which is so important to a journalist in a pressure situation trying to write a story. You need contact with people. It'll suddenly be machines and it will just be something so different, and I think a lot will be lost, and it may even be to our detriment, because there's nothing nicer than writing up your story on a typewriter and getting a piece of paper and getting the sub-editor to grab it and go through it with you, and you've physically got it in your hand.
And the new technology will be so jolly clinical. Men won't wear dust coats. They've got different tools of trade. They work with a ruler and a scalpel to cut the paper.
On the other hand, just bear in mind what happened here. Ian Fraser and his partner had a company. They were running a paper company, a shell company. It did, in fact, owe $14,000 in tax. Instead of paying that tax, they paid somebody else a commission of $3,000 or $4,000 to buy it.
Radio and television feed off newspapers, but equally now, newspapers are beginning to recognise that, say in a morning newspaper, everybody is watching, or most people are watching television the night before. The paper comes, actually hits their doorstep, or they pick it up on the way into work. So reporters have at last recognised that perceptions and basic news has been already given to the viewer on television. Reporters, of course, haven't seen that. They've been working, so they perhaps watch Nationwide or whatever, but basically they don't watch all the newscasts, they certainly don't watch the entertainment side, and they don't recognise that a lot of material gets across, maybe even through the Don Lane show.
I think it's a much tougher job than it was 15 years ago. I think it's tougher for all sorts of reasons. It's harder to get into journalism now than it was. And we're recruiting in a much more selective way than we ever did before. We'll have 500 applicants for cadetships this year. And we'll be looking for qualities that we weren't looking for 10 or 15 years ago. We're now recruiting young reporters with science degrees or with law degrees or with degrees in town planning.
We try every day to establish some emotional impact in the community. It may be just simply an emotion of feeling that things are in some areas going quite well, or that there's consideration and concern in some areas, like articles we would do about people who've been laid off, the problems of some of the younger people who are seeking jobs, various issues that really have a social and should awake a social conscience. As regards the young, we believe that the young should be treated intelligently, and we should recognise that they are part of the total community and just as aware and should be just communicated in the same way as everyone else.
About 2 or 3 years ago, the management realised that Weekender was very much entrenched in that family type of reader, and they thought, well, look, something better be done to grab the younger readers. So they updated it and really modernised it, if you like. And through that, you're having a lot more rock and roll bands, films, single peoples types of things. It's going to fish in. The Weekender was a change for the age. It was something new and exciting. I think it was an inevitable change. I think the time had come that the age realised that young readers were an essential part of the age and that they were the future buyers of the age, and that although they might read mum and dad's copy, that one day they were going to be 25 and 30 and out there buying their own copy, and that they were the potential readers or the potential buyers of a newspaper.
Nice picture of Frank Hardy.
Yes, lovely, isn't it? More people are buying more magazines in Australia. It's increased dramatically over the last couple of years. They're not just buying your Woman's Weekly or your Bulletin, they're buying 3 or 4 specialist magazines. And I think that's where Australian media is heading, which to a journalist is very exciting, because providing the money is around, or will be around, it gives us more opportunity to expand and move from company to company and media outlet to media outlet.
Well, I think the future of newspapers is fairly secure in the short and medium run. Anyway, I don't think serious morning broadsheets like the Sydney Morning Herald, the Adelaide Advertiser, The Age are under any serious threat from cable television or satellite television. In the long run, we may have a problem with the computer as a teaching method in school, a teaching instrument in school. I mean, if it is the case that in the next generation all children are taught in schools on computers, then I'm concerned they'll lose the reading habit. And if they lose the reading habit, then they won't want to read newspapers like The Age, which have to be read and not just looked at. That's a long-term worry, but in the short term, I have no real fears about technological competition from television.
Online to the world, and now a major participating service with America's cable network.
The whole future of media companies is about taking advantage of the changes in the use of satellites, in videotex, in cable, pay television, and of course, as far as this company goes, we're already in videotape, sound recording and whatever.
Well, what is being lost in the industry, as far as I am concerned, is the traditions of the old technology, of the old way of setting. The new technology has to make its own traditions.
One of the things I'm going to miss a great deal will be the noise level, the clickety-clack of typewriters everywhere, the ringing of phones. in future, with the installation of BDUs, it's going to be much quieter, much softer. What you're going to hear is a burr of the computer.
We have one particular development that we've started this year, and I'm hoping it will have a big impact in the longer term, and this is called AgeTel. Now, AgeTel is simply is material put on the screen like this, which goes into people's homes, and they can call up information. Now, on this particular example, we have information about what's on for the weekend. We have on real estate, advertisements, we have travel, we have restaurants, we have consumer advice, and you can carry right through that and call up what you want. A lot of material from Weekender, whatever. We'll be going for pay television in a big way, and we'll be being part of cable. Certainly, for a media company to survive, each media company must be in the new technology and move on, because newspapers are small profit earners and they're high labor costs because they're labor intensive. Newsprint goes up, so we've got raw material, and we're already in FM radio, we're already, as I've said, in videotape, sound recording and whatever. I hold out substantial hope for this as being another way of packaging material and selling it.